Okay, so dive into Moby-Dick with us today. We're using this article, Herman Melville and Moby-Dick, the enduring challenge of a literary Leviathan, and why reading it is like wrestling an octopus. Ever feel like you're wrestling an octopus when reading it?
Uh-huh. Right. It can feel that way. A lot of readers find it dense.
It's definitely got that reputation, but we're here to uncover why it's considered such a masterpiece and why it's still relevant even centuries later.
Absolutely. It's rewarding if you stick with it.
The article gets into Melville's life. Like, he had success early on.
Yeah, with Typee, Omu, those adventure stories.
Exactly. So what made him switch gears so dramatically to write Moby-Dick?
Well, his own life, right? He didn't just write about the sea, he lived it. Whaling, especially. Those experiences really fueled Moby-Dick. It's about obsession, nature, the whole human experience.
And it flopped when it came out. Wild to think about, now that it's like this classic.
Readers wanted more adventures like his first books.
Right, more of the same.
Moby-Dick dives into obsession, revenge. It's so multi-layered, it took time for people to get it.
So, the heart of the story, Captain Ahab, chasing that white whale. But what are the details even some avid readers might miss? Walk us through the plot. No spoilers, though.
Everyone knows it's about a whale.
And a very determined captain.
Ahab. The article calls it, get this, the longest grudge match in literature.
Perfect. But there's more to it, right? It's not just revenge.
Right. Ahab's obsession is like this metaphor, for how we struggle with fate, nature, even our own desires.
Yeah.
Ever feel consumed by something like that?
Consume, yeah, that's a good word for it. The article even compares reading Moby-Dick to, like, wrestling an octopus.
Yeah.
Drowning in chapters about whale blubber, all that. It's like Melville himself is wrestling these huge ideas onto the page.
Oh, totally. And the writing style he does it in.
Right. The article calls it Shakespeare, the Bible, and whaling manuals, all mixed up.
Pretty much.
Daunting for a modern reader, to say the least. How do we even begin to enjoy that?
You have to change your approach, I think. It's not a book you speed read. You got to savor it.
Okay.
The language is tough, for sure.
Yeah.
But that's what makes it so rewarding, His descriptions. The sea, the whales, even Ahab's anger. They just come alive.
The article quotes this line, whenever I find myself growing grim about the mouth, whenever it is a damp, drizzly November in my soul. And it's not even just the words, it's like the poetry of it. You're right there, in the narrator's head.
Exactly.
Makes me want to dig back into it. But those tangents, though. Pages about whale anatomy, whaling history. It's like he hit pause on the novel to write a whole encyclopedia. Why?
It's easy to see them as distractions, those tangents.
Okay.
But they're not just random. They all connect back, trust me.
Okay.
For example, when he describes how whaling actually worked, how brutal it was, that makes us think about our own relationship with nature.
So it's not Melville just showing off how much he knows.
Not at all. They set the mood. They make you think about society. Ultimately, they make the book richer.
Fascinating. So it's less like climbing Everest, more like an expedition.
That's it. Challenging, but worth it, because Melville's your guide.
Oh, I like that. But let's be honest, readers today, we're bombarded with stuff. Our attention spans, they're shot. We're glued to our phones. Why should we slow down for a dense 19th century book like this?
You're not wrong. It's like we're wired for instant gratification these days.
Right.
But that's exactly why Moby-Dick is still so important, I think.
Okay, yeah.
It forces you to slow down, like a reset button for your brain, to actually think about big ideas.
And the article brings up those themes. Obsession, revenge, humans versus nature. Do those even resonate with people now?
Oh, absolutely. Take Ahab's obsession. He asked to get Moby-Dick.
Right.
But don't we all have a little of that? The pressure to achieve, get that promotion, the next whatever. Melville's showing us how that ambition, if we don't watch out, it becomes unhealthy.
Wow. Yeah, when you put it that way, it's way more relatable.
And then there's nature. That whale, it makes you realize how small we are, right?
Yeah.
And in our world now, climate change and all, it's more relevant than ever.
It's wild how a book that old can still feel so current.
That's what makes it great. It's about the human experience. And that never gets old.
So for our listeners, up for the challenge, ready to tackle the language, the depth, any advice?
Don't get hung up on every word. Melville's taking you on a journey. It's about the experience.
Okay.
It's worth it. Trust me.
Any last thoughts for those about to start their own Moby-Dick adventure?
Just go in with an open mind. Be curious. You might be surprised what you learn about yourself along the way.
That's a great note to end on. Thanks for diving into Moby-Dick with us today. Until next time, happy reading, everyone.